Today I'm going to be reviewing my Spinnaker Croft. Well, technically two of them. I'm lucky enough to own two of these. One I purchased used on eBay in early 2020, and one was purchased for me by my partner Christmas of 2020. When it came to my partner choosing me a present for Christmas, it was easy. I just asked for a watch. But she said it was hard to buy a watch for someone who collects them, just in case she got it wrong. But I think she did an amazing job as she bought me one I already own and I already love. Shows that she actually does listen to me as she rattled off all the features I like in a watch, and this watch has so many of them. So, like Beyonce says, if I like it, then I should have put a ring on it. I did, especially when she buys me watches just like this. If you're unfamiliar with Spinnaker, they are owned by a company called the Dartmouth Brands, who are also behind other popular brands like Doofa and Aviate. Spinnaker are Dartmouth Brands' dive watch line, and a lot of the watches are inspired from days gone by, with a whole host of vintage inspired divers in their collection. This one in particular is called the Croft. Named after a historical freediver, Robert Croft in fact was the first person to freedive beyond 200 feet. He is now a retired US Navy diver and instructor. Croft is also known as the father of American freediving, and that's a great accolade to hold indeed. He has been awarded the Nogi Award for Sports and Education for his work within the diving industry, and his first for testing the limits of freediving, when he himself, as a research subject, set 3 world records on his ability to dive 300 feet. His mission was to show, as a mammal, it was possible to hold your breath safely to that depth. But we move on to the watch. This is the packaging my recent Croft arrived in, and I'm sure Spinnaker have recently updated their packaging along with their branding, font and logo, because when I've been watching older unboxing videos, this is not the box it came in. I do like the direction Spinnaker are going with their most recent design changes, and this is a great package. They haven't scrimped on the presentation, but they also haven't taken the budget from the watch and just ploughed it straight into what is essentially, for some people, rubbish or dust collectors. I keep all my boxes because I'm that type of guy. The Spinnaker Croft can be found from multiple retailers online at varying prices, but for the purpose of this video I'm going to go straight with Spinnaker's website pricing, and that's £260 on the leather strap, or on a steel bracelet £315. But if you do hunt around, I'm sure you can pick up a discount code of somewhere between 10 to 20% off, making this watch a great purchase at that price. So now we move on to the sizes. The case diameter is 43mm. We have a lug to lug of 51mm and a lug width of 22mm. And it is a pretty thick watch, measuring at 14mm. This is down to that slightly raised crystal and that thicker display case back. Inside we have the Miyota 8218, a Japanese movement from Citizen. It's a workhorse movement and commonly found in watches around this price range. The movement hand winds, but unfortunately it doesn't feature hacking. Spinnaker have chosen to customize the rotor, which is a nice touch. I do like when brands do this. It has a power reserve of 42 hours, it's 21 joules and beats at 21,600 beats per hour. It has a date set at the 3 o'clock and small seconds which can be found just at the 4 o'clock. The case is made of a brushed stainless steel and has polished chamfers to the lugs. One side of the case has the Spinnaker branding on. Not a feature I'm too thrilled about, but it doesn't overpower this watch in any way. The case size isn't traditional with the era of watches that it's drawn its inspiration from. With its size, it certainly has a wrist presence. If you're after a smaller diver with this vintage style, it's best to still probably find a vintage one. If you want the look and you can get past the size, then you will benefit from obviously the reliability of having a newer movement. But honestly, I think it wears well. My sweet spot is up to 44mm, and at 43mm, this just scrapes in. As you'll see, the Croft benefits from a screw-down display caseback. Whilst the movement is undecorated and more of a workhorse, it's still a nice touch. The movement is on show for all its glory, and you can see the custom rotor, which is a cool little feature by Spinnaker. Around the back we'll have all our watch information. Model number SP5058, Sapphire obviously for the glass, Japan automatic, water resist 150 meter, and all stainless steel. Because it's a display case back, it does add a little bit of thickness to the watch, and that might put some of you off. The Croft has a 60 clip coin edged bezel, and it feels solid and well done with no backplay. It is of a matte texture. It is an aluminium insert, but it feels gorgeous. Maybe for longevity, a ceramic one would have been a better choice, but that would have also meant increasing the price. So by having the matte feel, it's a nice little design touch by Spinnaker. The timing bezel runs all the way around, which lines up perfectly with the minute tracker on the dial, and you will find a loom pip at the 12 o'clock position. If we move on to the crown now, you'll find no crown guards. I personally think the design would have benefited with this, but for example, if we were to look at the Tudor Black Bay 58, you'll see that it has the same styling, vintage diver with no crown guard, and that watch still looks gorgeous. We do have a screw down crown. Once unscrewed, you can hand wind the watch. The other two positions when the crown is pulled out is for the date and then the time. The crown is also etched with the Spinnaker logo. A nice touch, and to me, I feel this what makes Spinnaker watches a great choice in their price range with just little additions like this. Spinnaker have decided to go with a sapphire crystal on the Croft, and that's a solid choice. But this has an acrylic dome visual to it. But Spinnaker have chose to keep the crystal on top flat, apart from the domed edges. A date magnifier can be found at the 3 o'clock. It's the first circular date window I've owned or even come across. I'm more accustomed to the one found on the Rolex Submariner. This little addition is pretty cool, but I know magnifiers aren't for everyone. But as an everyday tool watch, which is where I think Spinnaker is trying to place this one, it's a feature I think we can agree is definitely needed. When it comes to Spinnaker watches, I actually think the strength is their designs when it comes to the dials. This one has a textured dial, and you'll find out I own many textured dials in my collection, so I'm a sucker for this. If we take a look at the black one, you'll see it fades to an almost golden brown. We have the words automatic in cream and 500 feet, 150 meters in red, obviously showing your water resist. The indices are silver, with rectangle ones placed on the 6 and the 9, and a double rectangle indice for the 12 o'clock. I'm sure this is to help legibility when the watch is underwater. On the blue one, we have gilt hands and indices, and that's paired up with a vintage patinaed cream loom. The hands are sword shape. You'll find 3 separate loom sections to the longer minute hand, and on the shorter second hand, it's separated and it has 2 loom sections. The date window is matching the dial and is black, and that fits very well. Having it white would have made an odd choice and just looked out of place. So a very solid choice by Spinnaker, but at times, to be honest, it can be quite difficult to make the date out. I like how Spinnaker have done the small second dial. It has circular grooves and a sunray finishing. It really does a good job of contrasting the textured coloured dial very well, but manages to also separate itself from it. The sub dial has larger printed stick markers on the 3, 6, 9 and 12. My only gripe at the dial would be the applied logo. Under certain light, because it's metallic and polished, it makes the watch dial look almost sterile and the brand looks lost. I would like to have seen them use the same colour as they did for the automatic text, in a cream. Also, the font choice reminds me more of an American diner than something associated with the deep blue ocean. But this watch is a couple of years old, and it looks like on Spinnaker's newer releases that they've changed the font. So to me, that's a good thing. I previously mentioned, obviously looking at the colours, one has a white lume and the blue dialed watch has a patinaed lume, a cream lume. They're filled with superluminova, and boy, they're filled with plenty of it. These crofts shine so bright, something a vintage diver from the 60s just wouldn't give you in today's standards. So how about a little lume shot? Now, if we were to look at the strap, you'll see it's very well made. It's thick, genuine leather and can be found with two keepers. On the underside of the strap, we'll find water-resistant leather, and the Spinnaker logo can be found. I don't really know how leather can be water-resistant. Maybe this is coated in something. If you do know, then please pop a comment down below. The buckle is made from a thick piece of brushed stainless steel and has the Spinnaker logo. Because of the thickness, I found that wearing the strap can either be too tight or too loose. Maybe it could be my wrist size, but it's the same for both watches, so even after months of wear, they do still remain pretty stiff. My final thoughts. So what didn't I like about this watch? Well, for one, it's a tad on the thick side. This isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea. It could put you off from wearing it, and it's also quite weighty. The logo. I'm so glad Spinnaker have changed the font for their newer watch releases, but it doesn't take away the fact that on this watch, it's on it 4 times. I previously mentioned the branding on the dial. It just looks a little lost under some lighting, and the branding on the side, it wasn't really needed. But what about its plus points? For one, the price. This isn't seen as a budget watch, sure. Maybe we can put it at affordable, and I feel you get an individual dive watch look. An impressive wristwear that breaks the mold of the run-of-the-mill Submariner style dive watches. The dial is stunning along with the use of the sapphire crystal. It really does look amazing. Putting a leather strap on a dive watch is blasphemous for some, but when it fits the overall vibe like it does on the Croft, then I, for one, I'm not complaining. If your budget is under £350 and you want a vintage style diver, then I'd say great, this watch is for you. But if you wanted something to slide under the cuff, something that flew a little bit under the radar, then I would say this is definitely not the one for you. Specification wise, you do get a lot for your money. You get a 150 meter dive watch with great lume and fantastic looks. It benefits from a workhorse movement, and you know you're going to have a good watch that will last you for years to come. So thanks for watching, guys, and remember, I'm an enthusiast, not an expert. Hope to catch you in the next video. Cheers!